Okay, so as I get ready for another adventure, today we're going out to see the site of the Battle of Hobkirk Hill. This was about 6 months after the devastating defeat at Camden, and this site is also in present-day Camden, off of Green Street. And in early spring of 1781, with Cornwallis in Wilmington, North Carolina, replenishing his supplies, Nathanael Greene, the general of the Southern Command, decided he would initiate a campaign to rout the British out of South Carolina. So he made his way down from the Dan River in Virginia now and headed towards the first objective, which was the garrison in Camden, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Francis Lord Rawdon. It's a beautiful fall day here in South Carolina. It's pretty warm for fall. It's 75 degrees. So Nathanael Greene made his way down from the Dan River towards Camden, and on April 19th, which is Patriots' Day up in New England, that's the day that Paul Revere and William Dawes rode out to alarm the Patriots that the British regulars were on the march towards Lexington and Concord. Anyway, Patriots' Day, he sent Captain Robert Kirkwood and his Delaware Continental regulars to scout Lord Rawdon's defenses, and they discovered that they were a little too strong, and Nathanael Greene decided to hole up at Hobkirk Hill. Kirkwood's men had a small skirmish with the British just north of present-day Camden, or in Camden, north of what was then Camden, and that alerted the British to the fact that they were there. Here we are back at US 1 again in Lugoff, South Carolina, and I had to change out of my jacket. It was so dang hot, and I figured out why the rear shocks were bottoming out last trip. There wasn't any air in them. It was down to 0. So these are air shocks. So I put 15 psi in them today. Should be much better. Downtown Camden. This is the main intersection of Broad Street and DeKalb. And we're going to turn left on Broad Street, head up towards Hobkirk Hill, which is off of Green Street. So this is the site right there where the skirmish happened. It was called a little place called Log Town because there were log homes, and it was about a mile north of Camden. Yeah, here's Green Street. There's one marker. We'll come back to that one. It said a final encounter. There's a house for sale. There's another marker. And there's the first one, Battle of Hobkirk Hill. I'll see if I can walk up to it. The Battle of Hobkirk Hill in the Revolutionary War took place on this ridge, April 25th, 1781. The British Army was commanded by General, well, he was a Lieutenant Colonel, Lord Rawdon, and the Continental Army by Nathanael Greene. William Washington was a second cousin of George Washington. Turns out that Lord Rawdon rounded up anybody he could find, including stragglers, wounded men, doctors, musicians, to march up here and attack Nathanael Greene on April 25th. Here's another marker. I won't read the whole thing, but it talks about Rawdon's advance. The light infantry, volunteers of Ireland, struck the pickets on Greene's left. The musket fire alerted the Americans, who hurried to get into battle formation. Lord Rawdon was only attacked because he thought that the Patriots had no cannons, because he was informed by a deserter, a drummer, a young guy, that the Americans had no cannons. Well, surprise, surprise, they did. They had cannons. And now we're turning on to Kirkwood Street, named after Robert Kirkwood, Captain. And there's supposed to be plenty of markers along this route. Here's Kirkwood Common. Now, there used to be a big resort hotel here where Northerners would come during the winter. Kirkwood Hotel. It's no longer here, but I think the remnants of a brick wall are still here somewhere. All right, here's another marker. It says a daring plan, and that talks about the Lord Rawdon trying to attack Nathanael Greene with fewer men. Greene had 1,500, and Lord Rawdon only had 900. I didn't know it was gravel. Oh, and there is a fantastic looking colonial house on Kamchatka Lane. I hope this opens up into paved road eventually. We're on Kamchatka Lane in Kirkwood. Along this ridge, American and British armies clashed on April 25th, 1781. The British attack began near here on the eastern end of the hill. Fighting spread westward across Broad Street as more British units joined the battle. Greene ordered his larger army to counterattack, but the retreat of one American regiment and tenacious British resistance stopped the American advance. Rawdon then resumed the offensive and drove Greene's forces from the hill. And you can see it's uphill there. Over here is another marker. This is to Robert Kirkwood. He was killed in battle November 1791 near present-day Fort Recovery, Ohio. Most Rawdon's men were mostly from volunteers from Ireland, New York, and South Carolina loyalists. Greene's army was mostly Maryland and Virginia regular Continental Army. Well, they've done a pretty good job on this display. There's a British flag and an American flag. When several of Greene's leading officers were killed, confusion spread, of course, and the Patriot forces decided to withdraw and reform. But that order didn't reach some other regiments, and they continued to attack. So some were falling back while others advanced. With command and control gone and the lines in disarray, Greene elected to disengage and conduct an orderly withdrawal. Abandoning Hobkirk Hill, he retreated to Sanders Creek. Now, in those days, whoever who retained control of the battlefield was declared the victor. But Rawdon left Hobkirk Hill and went back to Camden, leaving a company of dragoons to secure the site. Greene sent William Washington and his cavalry back the next day, and they drove the dragoons away, and Greene turned the army around and recaptured the hill. And although Rawdon won the battle, his presence in Camden was threatened on one flank by Greene and on the other by General Thomas Sumter. Francis Marion was wreaking havoc with his supplies and communications with Charleston, and that convinced Rawdon that he could no longer hold Camden. And on May 9th, which was just 2 weeks after the battle, he retreated to Monk's Corner, South Carolina, but not before burning most of the town of Camden on his way out. Patriot losses were 19 killed in action, 113 wounded, and 138 missing or captured. British losses here were 38 killed in action, 177 wounded, and 43 missing or captured. And we're going to drive up this gravel road, see if I can get to some pavement. So instead of going home through Camden downtown, I thought I'd go show you the steeplechase area. Next weekend is a giant steeplechase race, one of the biggest in the country. And it's on Springdale Road, or Lane, I think it's road. There's the Springdale National Steeplechase Museum. And there's the course. They have several courses, long, medium, and short. But it's on both sides of the road. People come out here, tailgate, they drink wine and beer all day. I'm sure there's some wagering going on. And it's the Colonial Cup, November 23rd. I don't like the looks of these dark clouds. The weatherman said 0% chance of rain. Well, I made it home without incident, without getting rained on, but it did get darker and it did get cooler.